Welcome to the Author Friendly Podcast. This is your host, Carla King, talking with the people behind the companies that provide the products, tools, and services that you may be investigating to help you self-publish successfully and professionally. In this program, I vet who I talk to. Really, I only want to expose you to the companies that I can recommend. In fact, this podcast is an extension of my Consumer's Guide for Self-Publishers, which I obsessively update, and you can get it free at selfpubbootcamp.com. I also want to let you know that I've created some self-publishing courses for you, which you can find at selfpubbootcampcourses.com. Okay, so this week is part 2 of my conversation with Robin Cutler, director of IngramSpark at Ingram Content Group. We talked last week about IngramSpark's evolution from Lightning Source as a professional self-publishing tool for independent authors. We discussed paper choices, POD pricing, book formats, and a lot more. But in this talk, we focus exclusively on distribution, including how to go direct with Amazon and add IngramSpark distribution to reach the rest of the retailers, including libraries and bookstores, along with all the online retailers you'd expect to reach with POD and ebook sales. My blog post on this topic at Self Pub Bootcamp is the most popular post on the site, so I'm pretty sure that this episode will rank highly in podcast land as well. I know you're going to learn a lot from this episode, so here we go with part 2 of my conversation with Robin Cutler. Okay, so here I am talking to you, and we haven't really talked distribution yet. And Ingram is known for its amazing distribution. So who do you reach when you publish your print book and your ebooks on IngramSpark?
So Ingram's considered to be the widest distributor of books in the world. So Ingram, and when I talk about Ingram, it's Big Ingram. It's the wholesale book company, reaches and has retail and library customers that are customers of Ingram. So publishers down to a single book author provide us their content. That content is then made available in the Ingram catalog, which looks and acts a lot like an Amazon catalog where, you would go and see a book. But that catalog is really typically only available to retailers and libraries. So we have something like 39,000 retail and library customers around the world. And when I say 39,000, Amazon is just one of those 39,000. So Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, Costco, Target, Walmart, we really supply the most broadest content for books like in the world. On the ebook side, we distribute to wherever, the widest distribution of ebooks as well, and including Kindle, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Nook, which are the two big 4 distributors of E. And then there's a bunch of smaller ones that are a little more niche oriented.
Yeah, boy, I've never heard of half of these.
I know.
3/4 of them.
Yeah. So what's great is that, you can upload your book one time. And the way it works, and you asked me about this before, and I don't think I fully answered, but you upload your finished book. So you would have already had your book edited and designed, and it's in digital format. So for print, it would be as PDFs, one for the interior, one for the cover. For an ebook, it would be as an epub. You can upload those into IngramSpark one time. The files are actually validated right on the screen, and we'll tell you if there's any issues with them. But presumably they're fine, and they go through, and you get an e-proof. You get an email that says your e-proof is ready to look at. And then you look at your e-proof, and I encourage for a print book that you actually order one copy. Make sure you order the physical copy, you look at it, you're happy with it, and then you can then turn on the distribution for your book if you choose to do that. So you turn on distribution, that's when your book actually, it's kind of like Pandora's box where the information about your book, Ingram is connected with everybody. We start sending that information about your book to Amazon, out to Barnes & Noble, out especially to the Ingram catalog, where then our 39,000 retail and library customers can actually start purchasing it. And it happens fairly quickly. It goes into the Ingram catalog the night that you turn on the distribution. And then it can take longer. Amazon's usually pretty quick. We send the information to Amazon, and if you're a new author that's never had a book on Amazon before, you'll see that it goes out in stages. So your title will show up and the author will show up first, usually a couple of days later. Then the description shows up maybe a day after that, and the pricing. And usually within a week, maybe a little bit more, you'll see the cover show up. So the thing that I always tell new authors is, give yourself some space and time. Distribution, and especially virtual distribution, where the information goes out, the metadata goes out about your book, goes out to all these other sites that Ingram is sending it to. And those sites all vary in how fast that information shows up on their website. So give yourself 2 to 3 weeks before you start promoting your book. Make sure that information about your book is widely distributed first.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that drives us a little bit crazy because, we want to tell the whole world about it. And some of our customers may be Amazon shoppers and others may be on Apple or Barnes & Noble, and they're generally much slower than Amazon. And so you have to be careful because you don't want to lose sales by promoting too quickly.
Yeah, and people yell at us all the time, acting like we're the magic wand. And we are, we do send everything out like that, but we don't control, other companies' websites. We only control our own. So just that's something I definitely encourage. And I'm glad you teach that, Carla, to make sure that you have everything out there before you start promoting and you're sure of that.
Yeah, that book launch plan and calendar is, it's kind of a moving target at times, but that's when it's super important to pay attention to dates.
Yep, you're so right.
Let's see, what was I going to ask you about? Oh, Amazon, of course. So a lot of people like to have a one-on-one relationship with Amazon for a lot of reasons that we won't go into here. But if I decide to go with Amazon for print and ebook distribution to the Amazon store, how do I manage that and the IngramSpark account at the same time? Do I upload to Amazon first or second? How does that work? How do you know? What is the magic that allows me to do that without interfering in the distribution to Amazon?
So, and I've heard this anecdotally since Amazon Print became, a bigger thing than CreateSpace, which happened just a few months ago. So I'm told now that the best avenue is if you're uploading to Amazon Print or to Kindle, do that first. If you're subscribing to Kindle's KDP Select, which is exclusive, right? Right. You would not upload your ebook to IngramSpark unless you have opted out of Amazon, which you're able to do that. But Amazon requires that be exclusive to only Amazon, I think, for 90 days.
90 days, right. And make sure you don't have auto renew turned on so you can make that decision 90 days later.
Yeah, and whether or not that's a good thing, is highly debatable. I think you should go wide, as wide as you can to start, but there's different arguments around that. On the print side, you can upload to Amazon first and then upload to IngramSpark. I recommend that you not turn on expanded distribution through Amazon. It will put your book into the Ingram catalog, and when you come to upload your book into IngramSpark using the same ISBN, which I recommend, you'll get an error that says that's a duplicate ISBN. So
this has... In my self-pub bootcamp coaching program, this happens again and again. People upload to Amazon their print book, and that extended distribution just seems like a good idea, and they press that button and say yes. And then they go to IngramSpark, and they get really mad at you guys.
I know. And it's not our fault.
It isn't, but Amazon does that. They do that with KDP Select and their extended distribution. I always just recommend going to Amazon just to get your book in the Amazon store, and that is it.
Yeah, it's not advantageous to authors, and so that's why I really don't recommend it. If you turn on expanded distribution, what happens is it puts the book into the Ingram catalog. Your book will be associated with Amazon Kindle Print, KDP, and it will list your book as disadvantaged terms for a retailer, right? Other than Amazon. And so they just won't buy it. So it doesn't really help you. It doesn't really get you down the road where you want to be. And most independent bookstores, I can't speak for all, but for most, if you pitch your book to, say, the Tattered Cover in Denver, which is a very prestigious store. If you live in Denver, you definitely want your book in the Tattered Cover, or any independent bookstore around the country. If you pitch your book to them and then they go into the Ingram catalog and they see it associated with Create Space and KDP, they're not going to be warm and welcoming to you as an author, because you have to remember Amazon is their competitor, right? So you should realize that. And the reason why you would want to set your book up independently in IngramSpark is because your book will go into the Ingram catalog and it won't be associated with Amazon in any way. So that's a good thing for you. And then you control the pricing, the discounts that you're not able to do on the Amazon side.
Okay, let's go into that. So, this might make this podcast episode more than a half an hour, which I aim for, but I haven't adhered to at times, and this may be one of those times. So let's talk about those discounts. IngramSpark is the only place you can really play with your discounts. And so why don't you talk about when you should set it for 30%, when you should set it for 53 or 55%, and the returns program and all of that.
Yeah, so you have the choice on the print side to set up anywhere between 30 and 55% off the list price that you've determined for your book. So what that means is the smaller the number of discounts, so say 30%, that means that you're going to make 70%. You make the opposite of that. The 30% is what Ingram and the retailer share for purchasing your book. It's the discount that you have offered to Ingram and to the retailer to purchase your book. If you think the market is primarily online, which I would say for authors, that's probably true, where, you've tried to get your book into an independent bookstore and you're not getting anywhere, the 30% will get your book listed online. And I think that's really where you should start. But if you do think and you do want independent bookstores to order your book, you need to offer a larger discount of what they're used to. And what they're used to is what's called a trade discount. And to get your book listed as a trade discount in the Ingram catalog, a retailer would come to buy not only your book, but like a Random House book. And what they're used to is seeing trade discount. To be able to get that designation in the Ingram catalog, you would need to set your book up with at least a 53% discount to get that. So that's my advice there. So depending on who's going to buy your book, if it's mainly online, I would go shorter, the 30%. If it's the independent bookstore, I would definitely set it at a 53.
Yeah, and this is a tough decision because we all want to see our books in the independent bookstores, and then we're faced with this discounting, and you can't do both.
Yeah.
I don't know. Possibly you could have a special edition for bookstores and have a different ISBN. I don't know, but that kind of messes up your number.
It's not recommended just because it causes confusion in the marketplace. I mean, your ISBN is basically your UPC code, like any product code out in the marketplace. So if there's the same product with different numbers, it confuses everybody.
And you could miss being a bestseller. Like if you have, so some people go and get the free Amazon ISBN, and then for the paperback, and then another ISBN, they go and buy their own from Bowker. And so you might be missing bestseller status because those numbers are split.
Yeah, that's true. And definitely not what I recommend.
I do know a couple of authors. We've talked about this. They're offering a 55% discount on their hardback.
Mm-hmm.
Attractive to bookstores and the library market. And they also go sell their book by hand to their local booksellers
Mm-hmm.
and retailers.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine and really good idea to do that. A lot of booksellers will not purchase directly from an author. Sometimes what they'll do, and I've heard of people doing this, they will say set up an event. The bookseller will order the book from Ingram for the event and say they order 50 copies. And the author, at the event has this understanding that if at the event they only sell 25 copies, rather than that bookseller returning the book, they actually sell those directly to the author, kind of as a buyback, so that that book is not going back into the returns bucket that's going to end up either being destroyed or returned back to the author with additional cost. And they're selling that book at the discount that the bookseller bought it at. So that is something to think about too. We've had some authors actually.
That's really interesting. So the bookstores order it from Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have not heard of that. That's really interesting. So you just make a deal with them that you're having a reading or maybe local author's day or something, and everybody can say, "We'll buy back our books." That really helps them because it's a lot of work to set up a consignment account. It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, they don't like it. And I don't really like it for authors either because, sometimes it can be, you might be the last one on the list for that bookseller to pay, and you don't want that either. So if your books are bought through Ingram, we're going to be paying you for those sales and something you can just take to the bank. But when you're dealing with an independent bookstore, that's another deal that you've done directly and something that's kind of out of our hands. So I don't recommend that. But
so when you're pitching, when you're going to the bookstore, you just pitch it that way. And do they like write up a little contract or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll find out more, Carla, and offer that to you to exactly, because I do know some examples of what bookstores are actually doing, and I'll come back to you with some information about that.
That'd be great. And maybe I'll have an episode with booksellers talking about how they handle that. That would be a good idea for an episode. Wow. All right. Lots of great ideas. What haven't we talked about? Let's talk about how people format and design their books and get them to Ingram. I mean, right now I've used InDesign. Right now I'm using Vellum. But there are lots of online tools as well. And I know you've been threatening to have an online tool for years and years now. Is that happening?
It's so hard. Yes. So we are currently testing and working on a formatting tool that we will have in IngramSpark in the early part of 2019. So we're really excited about it. I think everybody's going to be really loving it once we launch it. And it's going to coincide with an entire redesign of our IngramSpark site too, that is going to be much more intuitive and helpful for authors, along their journey. So be looking for a lot more information about that.
Yay! I'm so happy. So this online tool, okay, a little more about that. So will this create both an EPUB and a PDF?
Yes, it will.
Yay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it will be something that a lot of people will be sort of thrilled about. And it's something that we're going to keep evolving, in the type of books. Like, for instance, some people have asked us for, cookbook formats and templates, and, those are pretty complex. That's something that we'll be adding over time, I think.
Do you mean the fixed format EPUB and?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Just all kinds of
Yeah, that would be a
It's
very
hard.
complex online tool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know a lot of people have tried, and
it's really hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really challenging.
Hmm.
But this is what I love about these tools and services that have emerged over the past decade or more is that they're always evolving. I'll talk to you today, and then in a few months you're going to have something different.
I hope so.
Yeah, so I'll have to talk. We'll talk again as the technology evolves always.
Okay. Sounds good.
But the marketing and book creation, and just being a professional author publisher, it doesn't really change. It's wisdom from the traditional publishing world, which you've come from. I know you've done academic publishing
Hmm.
even
Yes.
before Book Surge, right?
Yeah, and I had my own publishing company for a number of years too. So, I know what everybody goes through in creating books, and it's not easy. And so, everybody who's listening, I want to just give you a huge shout out. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and definitely to learn the business of publishing is, it's something that is harder than it should be. And we try to help with that. And I know Carla helps a tremendous amount with that in teaching the professional publishing. It's really something that you never quite, I think, ever get to the bottom of, right? There's always something else to learn.
It is. And yeah, we're both involved with the Independent Book Publishers Association, which has helped a lot with publishing standards for independent publishers. And I talked to Angela Bull on a previous podcast.
Hmm.
So you can learn about that there. I know you're fully aware of that.
Yeah.
But boy, you've had a long career in publishing. And so just now that we're at the end, do you have any words of wisdom for people who are starting their self-publishing journey?
Well, I always say, if you want a professional book, you really need to work with professionals. And if you're new, as most of you probably are to publishing, you don't know what you don't know. So put your money in hiring a professional editor, number one, especially a professional cover designer, number two. Don't invest in inventory right off the bat until you know your book has been tested in the marketplace. So put your money in working with professionals, own your ISBN. I know, Carla, we both say that. And, those are just kind of the basic things that you need to make sure that you cover.
There you go. Thanks for that. All right, Robin, it's been a pleasure as always talking with you. And I hope you'll come back on the podcast when things change after January.
I will. I would love that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Author Friendly Podcast, and I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, go check out selfpubbootcampcourses.com and poke around. There are some free lessons for you in there. Have you got a suggestion for a guest or a company that you want to hear about? Go to selfpubbootcamp.com and hit the contact form and let me know. Until next week, this is Carla King signing off of the Author Friendly Podcast. Thanks.